Tav Tzadik Vav. Begolis Oisim Shnei Yom Tov Misafik. I have a question for you, Shimon. When was this halacha invented?
Mentioned in the Gemara.
After Chorban Beis Mikdash Rishon.
Why would you say that?
Because up to that time, there was no dollars, wasn't it? Everyone was in Israel, all Jewish people.
Do you think that that's true?
Fine question, maybe it's wrong.
First Galus to Galus. Galus
That was after the Chorban Beis Mikdash Rishon. I said before the Chorban Beis Mikdash Rishon, everyone...
Do you think that before the Chorban Beis Mikdash Rishon, nobody was ever in Chutz La'aretz?
No, well, a few Jews maybe.
Let's say Mr. Zvulun, that he went on a shopping trip, right?
But over the seas?
Yeah, occasionally the old Jew, but not generally.
He used to light a flame from
No, you just muted him.
Him or no, you? I mean, you. I'll do it in Galilee.
The Gemara talks about lighting a flame from hilltop to hilltop and not get disturbed by people messing it up.
Yeah, but all of that was done in China?
No.
Where was that
Babel,
done?
that's just a Babel.
Why do you okay, I would just share with you that there are sources that say that this takana was made by Moshe Rabbeinu.
Oh.
Okay, this has been around for a long time. No, it's the idea that a Jew should find himself in Chutz La'aretz has nothing to do with the Churban Bayis.
Isn't it Machal? You're not supposed to go to Chutz La'aretz. I mean, to man.
This is true. But that doesn't mean that didn't happen that people went. And there were all different kinds of reasons why people went. What did Zvulun do for a living? Was he an Orthodox Jew?
Yeah. But Rashi described that people used to come from foreign countries used to come to the coast of Israel to do business with Zebulun and then used to go and see the Beis Mikdash. So I was thinking it was all that way.
Yeah, but it wasn't only that way. That was maybe the majority. And this is a question, when did this happen? Okay, but the pashtus is that this has nothing to do with modern times. This halacha precedes whatever there is to precede. It's been around. Okay, okay, they would put the person in chayrim, a person who didn't do Yontif Sheni. They didn't put him in chayrim, they just gave him malchus.
Or the preferential treatment should be the other way around, because he should know.
Okay, all right.
The Tzurah Barabanan weren't keeping Chalbait, or they weren't keeping second day Yontif.
You're asking a question which is, I'm not sure if that comes before his question or after his question.
I don't remember exactly what his question was, but because that's L'chera seems to be strange that we're finding halacha that Tzurah Barabanan weren't keeping.
It didn't say that they weren't keeping. It says that if he does it, so there's more reason to be makel on him than to be makel on somebody else. Who is harder to put in line? A good soldier or a bad soldier?
The answer is, I don't know, because a good soldier should be out of line in the first place.
That's true. But you didn't answer my question.
It could be both ways.
No. I think you're making a mistake. There's two different questions. One is punishment and one is correction. Which one is easier to correct?
Good soldier. Yeah.
Right. But which one maybe should get worse punishment? Could be the good soldier. So it depends what the subject we're talking about is. Okay? And this was done in order that people should fall into line. This wasn't the punishment. There's a fascinating discussion, and I'm just going to mention it because I think that some other place can mention it over here. You give him malchus. How many malchus do you give him? Why would you assume that?
Yeah, but you can get this.
if his body can handle till
He's saying
39.
Marcus Marvis.
Right. And how many makas do you give for makas mardis?
Much as it can tolerate.
What?
Until it collapses. Could be more, could be less.
Okay. Well, could be less, could be even by regular malchus. A person who can't tolerate it gets less, right? But malchus mardis, if I'm not mistaken, the halacha is ad sheteitze nafshay.
Whoa.
Okay. Now the reason why, and there's two kinds.
It's really a very humble function.
Okay. So now there's malchus mardis comes in two different flavors. Okay. There is, and this is why I mentioned what I mentioned before. Malchus mardis comes sometimes as a punishment, and sometimes as a deterrent. It's not the same thing. The one, a person who doesn't do a mitzvah, so bezdin makin oisei acha teitzei nafshay. Person doesn't do a mitzvah. You didn't put on tefillin today, put you on the rack,
Finished.
until you, or
I say you get Malchus. Then I didn't know you get Malchus Mardis if you don't do a mitzvah.
koifin oisei until he does it, and you can do whatever.
Now there's another side.
You know, that's part of Malchus Mardis. All those things, those are Bezdin has tools to get people to fall in line, and they do whatever is necessary to get them to fall in line.
Well, this is only with like other penalties, like death penalty. You need 2 kosher witnesses. You need warning. You need all these.
You need
I mean, they can't just,
who's the you can't just.
say, someone reports to the base team, so and so's not been putting on to fill in.
Okay, and Bezdin comes over to the fellow and says, "Put on tefillin." He says, "I don't want to."
Okay.
So what do we do?
Then you have 2 kosher witnesses and you warn him.
Why don't you have 2 kosher witnesses?
So it says on the wall.
I don't want to. I didn't put them on, and I'm not planning to. What do we need? We don't need witnesses
Well, you need 2 witnesses to.
to do what?
That's wrong. At least
Yeah,
maybe that there's a
No, that's you have your head screwed on backwards. That is talking about where somebody did a lav, and you have to know that he did the lav.
here it's in front of you.
Here he's saying, I don't want to do the mitzvah. I don't want to eat matzah. So I have to have 2 witnesses say that he doesn't want to eat matzah. He just said he doesn't want to eat matzah. What do I need witnesses for? Witnesses can testify about what happened. They can't testify what's going to happen or what's not going to happen, right? Only Hashem could do that, right? So why are we giving him punishment? Because we're trying to give him a opportunity to do the mitzvah, right? And for that opportunity, the halacha is ach teitze nafshay. That I didn't make that up. That's the halacha. Okay. Now, if a person doesn't mean a person's mechuyev to die in order to do a mitzvah, but you have to be on the program. If you're not on the program, we try to get you on the program, and if it means ach teitze nafshay, we do that. Is that a punishment? It's a deterrent, right? It's not a punishment. So there's malchus of mardis that have to do with punishments. If a person did an avera, so sometimes you get malchus mardis, sometimes you get malchus deraisa, and those are 39. And sometimes you could get whatever is necessary to do it, or sometimes it's done as a punishment and they give a certain amount. But over here we're talking about that the person is not doing Yontif Sheni because he needs to be corrected. So here we say a regular person, you have to put him in Chayrim to get him to do it, and if he's a Talmud Chacham, you could just give him Malchus. Okay, I assume that the pshat is because we will assume that he will fall into line quicker. Okay. Ein chilik bein rishon l'sheni elel inyan meis v'chein lochol es ha'ayin. There's no difference in Yontif Rishon and Yontif Sheni, except for burying a dead person, and we'll call them medical issues. Oshar chayli shem bo sakona. V'afal pi she'aser b'rishon ela al yedei ein Yehudi imein bo sakona, b'sheni muter afila al yedei Yisrael. And medical issues can be dealt with even with a Jew doing them without a shinui. Chutz miyantav sheni shel Rosh Hashanah, d'shnei yomim kedusha achas arich lehem. Because 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, we don't look at them as 2 different days, as a Gzeir D'Rabbanan. We look at it as one long day. V'davka shvus d'Rabbanan dim d'mechala einai. And that which we're mekel, it's only things that are a shvus d'Rabbanan, like mechal einai. Aval av malacha osel yisol asos afil b'yantav sheni. He can't do an av malacha even with a shinui. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah. We don't have any suffix of when Yontif is. And we left it that you have Yontif Sheni. Misha bezalzel bo b'mezid, v'afil zilzil davar b'shom shvus, oy betchumim d'Rabbanan medal noisu. We put him in the chem. V'kosu achroilim. Afilu chilula ayidei akum nami ihud b'nidui. Even if he did it, he didn't do the malach himself. He had a guy do on it for him malach on Yontif Sheni.
Yeah, he did Amir Lana.
Yeah. Because afilu chilula ayidei akum nami ihud b'nidui. The chol masha osir b'rishon osir b'sheni. I would just like to share with you from my most amazing Yontif Sheni stories that happened to me. I was in Beit Vegan on Yontif Sheni Shel Goliath, and I lived already in Ramat Shlomo, and a friend of mine from Ramat Shlomo, I met him in the Groshul in Beit Vegan. So I asked him, what are you doing here? So he said he had a medical emergency with one of his kids, and him and his wife came with their kid to Shari Tzedek, and the kid is stuck in the hospital, and his wife's staying with him, and he wants to go back to Ramat Shlomo. And he said to me, my mother-in-law lives here in Beit Vegan, and she's going back to take care of my kids. Can I get a ride with her?
He's keeping 2 days.
He keeps one day, right. He's 2 days, and his mother-in-law's 1 day. So I said, and this is a fascinating story, I said, I don't answer this question. So he said, so what do I do? So I was in the Groshul. I said, ask him Hyman. He's a qualified rabbi. Ask him. So I went to Rav Hyman and asked Rav Hyman. And he said, I don't answer this question. Ask Rav Israel. So we went down the block. We went to Rav Israel and asked Rav Israel. And he said, I don't answer this question. Go ask Rav Neuvert. So I went to Rav Neuvert. And I knocked on the door, and Neuvert answers, what do you want? So I tell him the question. So he said, this is a quote. He said to me, that's what I'm telling this to you now. You're allowed to do on Yontif Sheni with a Jew, whatever you're allowed to do on Yontif Rishon with a Goy. And then he slammed the door in my face. So what did he tell me? He didn't say either way, right? But there was nowhere to go after him. The inference was you shouldn't do it. That's, you want to know what he meant is that you shouldn't do it, right? He didn't say it, but that's what, okay, so I'm just saying this, but the Yontif Sheni Chomer Miseh B'Yontif Rishon, the Yontif Rishon Ein Menan Rak B'Avur Issa D'Oraisa, Aval Shus D'Rabbanan Ein Menan Rak Malkanois Malkas Mardis, Ma'ashen Giv Yontif Sheni, V'Hasham Du Yontif Sheni, Kol Ikra Ein Mel M'Rabbanan V'Im Kain, Ki Avru Ba'al Eze Davar Shehu Hareyu Ka'Ikeres Kulai, V'Lahachi Echmiru Alav. Therefore, very machmir. Masha Ein Ke B'Yontif Rishon, Sheino Okro B'Masha Over Al Shvus. Sharei Issa D'Oraisa Shebolo Okroi. Mashenkin here, it's like you did the whole thing. V'yesh poskim cholkim b'sev lidu ein chilik klal b'yontif rishon l'sheni v'adavar tol l'fi roi seini hadayonim b'mash roi l'fi ha'inyin im l'hokil alav v'malkos o l'hachmar alav b'nidoi rak arshus b'yodam afilu l'nadaisoi. They have to do whatever is necessary to correct the situation. Because achorim osa davar piaras chacham shetoa ein l'nadaisoi. Sharei shogiku, he didn't go against the principle, he just did the wrong thing.
What's the Hilchos Yom Tov?
Because Lamaisa, he was Mechalel the Yontif Sheni. So that's it's saying, and that's why it's not true. Okay. Okay. Beis. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah. Mishum kvoidai of the mace, so therefore makel on dinei yontav sheni. V'le'inyan kiboy deleika ayim pri chodesh. V'yizbor lekavan tavkuf yudalid. Okay. V'chein lochol es ayin. Umari shechoshesh be'eno k'tzas. V'chol gufoi bori. Ve'eno margish mechosh begufo machmas ha'ayin. This is very important for Gil. This is from the this is a backhanded definition. What is called a choyle? This is like from the sentences which I like the most that I say. A person who's not sick is not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. And a person who is sick is allowed to take medicine. So why would a person who's not sick take medicine?
Prevent myself getting sick.
What?
Prevent myself getting sick.
No, that you're also allowed to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why is a person has what's called a mechush. You know what a mechush means? I don't feel good. I don't feel good and I'm sick are related. I know, and I just like there's certain things which I've come. There's a word in English which doesn't exist in Lashon HaKodesh, and it used to bother me why it doesn't exist in Lashon HaKodesh, and now it bothers me that it exists in English. I have a fellow that I like him, and there's another guy that I love him. Right? There's no word I like a person in Hebrew.
Chaber means closest.
But it's not. It's a different concept, right? They're giving him preference, right? But there is no such word like that. And it seems to me the answer to the question is because there's no such thing. No. Either you love the person or you don't. Now you can love one person more than the other person. But like, what we call in English like, is a different, it's a different...
It's in between.
No. It's a different...
Like also doesn't mean in between?
No.
What?
It's in between love and hate.
No. No, that's not what it is. It's something...
Above neutral.
What?
About slightly above neutral.
Yeah, but it's a different... It's not a level of loving.
Tolerance?
A person who has an acquaintance, is he a friend?
No.
You wouldn't call him acquaintance.
What?
You wouldn't call him acquaintance. You give him more.
What is an acquaintance?
What do you reckon?
Something you deal with. A colleague.
I didn't ask you who he is. What does it mean? It means I know the person well, but there is nothing that connects you with the person, right?
No social interaction with it.
I don't know. And this is an emotional interaction. What we're talking about. Speaking about a friend is an emotional thing, not a social thing, and not a business thing. It's a interpersonal relationship, right? So I have an acquaintance means I know the person very well, and I have much to do with him, but it's totally, and there's no personal relationship with him. Your acquaintance, you don't invite him to your chasana, because he's not your friend, right? Sometimes you have a business scholar's acquaintance, you have to invite him because of other reasons, but not because of the relationship doesn't demand it. You have somebody who you like, then you should invite him to your wedding. But that's in English, the person who you like means that you have pleasure from your interactions with him. Yes?
When you say like doesn't apply to people, does it apply to food?
No. It's the same principle. Right? I have things which I like, and that's a level unto itself. And I could like this thing, and I could like it more and more, but that still is not loving. And I'll just give you in a different realm this concept. I gave a series of shiurim a few times to people who work with handicapped children, all kinds of different kinds of problems. And many of them, their interaction is very important to them. And there's a question with boys, with women, and girls with men, what's permissible and what's forbidden. So before I gave this series of shiurim, I asked my aunt. I have an aunt who she was a world-class expert in this field. And she took kids that people said would never walk and talk, and she got them to be functioning in society. She's super, super in this field. And I asked her, what is the thing that these children need the most? And she said something which was amazing. They need warmth, and they don't need love. That's two different things, right? Do you understand that that's two different things? Ichpatiyut, right? That's not love. That's not even a lower level of love. It's a different category. It's a different category. And that's true also. Liking and loving there are things that I like a lot and the things that I love a little. They're not related. Okay? Anyways, so why was I saying this? So now we have somebody who has, I don't feel well and I'm sick. Those are not the same thing. On Shabbos, a person who's sick is allowed to take medication. A person who doesn't feel well is not. And from the most difficult questions to answer is the ones which I get, just 2 weeks ago, someone came over to me before Shacharis on Shabbos and said, Rabbi Zachariash, I don't feel well. Can I go home and take, an Advil? So I said to him, what would you do if I said you can't? So he said, I would go home and go to sleep. So I said, so you could take it.
You've managed to stay.
What?
You've managed to carry on.
So now I'm going to give you my definition. I say this, you have a kid wakes up in the morning and says, Mommy, I don't feel good, I don't want to go to school. Okay? And the mother says, okay, but today's the class trip. So the kid says, I feel great, right? And sometimes they'll say, even though I don't want to go to school. So the first kid has a mechush, and the second kid is sick, right? It's not the same thing. Okay? So this is what we're discussing over here. And the reason why I said this negeh for Gil, there are people who have a toothache. And sometimes I'll say that they're called choli kol gufa, and sometimes they won't. This is a common occurrence, what I'm about to say. A person has a toothache, and they want to put the cup on the table, and they miss the table. Right? Why does that happen? Because the pain is so severe that it makes them dysfunctional. And it affects their general health. That is called a choila. But until that point, it's just called a mechush. That's what we're discussing over here. Very clear words, right? His eye is bothering him a little bit, but the rest of his body is okay. And he doesn't feel ill the rest of his body because of his eye. And there are times where because of his eye, the rest of your body doesn't feel good. This is a very, very important Mishnah Berurah. Okay. Okay. Gam ken kesheinu kol aguf. Because kol aguf, that's a whole different story. B'sheni muter, shemipnei hanas haguf lo yachmir b'yont sheni b'shvus derabanan. In order that a person should have physical pleasure, we allowed him to get better. Okay. Aser liYisrael, la soisa afilu b'yont sheni, afilu chosh kol gufa nami, also they atzmai, because of this heter, the adam hanefel or nigif v'nitzar hadam b'makon nifliyas and nigif eina choshev choyli pnimi. A person who has a black and blue mark, it's not called a maka pnimi. Achar sheinu mitztayer kol kach v'yochol lahamtin lemochor b'li sakana. Just wait. V'nir the ox lahakis dav shekoyrin kofin bankis afilu b'yont sheni shagoles afilu de akam eikan l'shonei. And all of these things, they are just preferences. Preferences are also to do. Now, I would just like to mention.
Is this vitamins?
It has nothing to do with vitamins.
It's not profit?
No, this has to do with bankis are cups.
Yeah, but Ron was saying that's perfect.
You have a question about vitamins. What are vitamins? It has nothing to do with what we're learning about right now. Okay. All right, let's just go on. We'll skip the other things. B'nei Eretz Yisrael shabo l'chutz haaretz asurim lasas malacha b'yom tov sheni b'yishuv afilo daito lachzor. They cannot do malacha if they're in a populated place, even if they're planning to come back. Kol zman shelo yagia liyishuv, if they're still in transit, afilo ein daito lachzor muter. They're allowed to, it's only halacha when you're in a place. But when you're in travel, then you're still allowed to do like Minhag Eretz Yisrael. Lefi she'adayin lo hukba liyos kamoison. Avol megia liyishuv, ve'ein daito lachzor, nasa kamoison v'oser. Bein b'midbar, bein b'yishuv. Once you go to a place of chutz la'aretz and you become part of them, then you get the din with them. V'kol chutz la'tchum, ein noisnim lav chumrim makom shalach l'sham. As long as you're outside the tchum, you don't get this halacha.
Another something, the top line we said, Kozman shelo gel yeshuv, afilu en da'ato lachzor. And the line below says, afilu gimel yeshuv ve'en da'ato lachzor.
Because they speak about the opposite things. Again,
Depends on where you are and whether you tend to come back.
right. Okay. So this Mishnah Berurah over here says clearly, the nice no churim makom shehalach l'sham afilu b'tzina aser k'moshe yisbayer mikol makom im aser malacha ein menad moiser. If he did malacha, we don't put him in chayr. B'yishuv lafukim yotzim min hayishuv bolo lemidbar ein tzach l'snag k'mina chutz la'aretz kivan she'ein daito l'shtakei sham. If he's not in the city of chutz la'aretz, he's okay. Because that person, the yishuv nikra yishuv shel Yisrael dafka. It has to be that they're Jews there. The kozman shelo yigia le'ir shel Yisrael ein tzach l'snag k'chumri oisay medina. Because hu oid yotech atrum havi gesech ha'ir v'tzach l'snag k'chumri oisay makom. I'd just like to make a statement over here. I don't really want to learn so much Hilchos Yom Tov Sheni Kilchos, so we could write a whole 30 books written on the subject. But recently, I was asked a question from a lady from this street that she was going to some place in Russia, and she wanted to know if she could travel on Yom Tov Sheni. And there's many questions involved in this question, many different rabbanim, and the particular airport that she was going to in that city in Russia, there are two airports, and she was going to the new airport, and the new airport is out of the tchum. The old airport is in the tchum, the new airport is out of the tchum, and therefore I told her she's able to go.
Airport.
What?
An airport.
To the airport, and she can disembark.
Yeah, in the airport itself, she can also do whatever she wants.
Yeah, but she can't go from there to her lodgings, that are in the
The
city.
airport is called in transit, or is it just called?
You're in a gas station. That's all an airport is, a big...
Because it's out of the yishuv, or it's because...
It's out of the yishuv. That's not a yishuv. Now there are some airports that are a yishuv in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Then you'd have to know, are there Jews there in that yishuv or not? Okay.
You're talking about any Jews, not just for religious.
Yeah, according to most places, it doesn't make a difference whether they're religious or not. But it has to be that they live there. Because they have a booth there. Well, they have a booth there, that doesn't mean anything. Now, I don't know, is Ben Gurion in the Tchum of Kfar Chabad? How far away is it?
I don't know, maybe some edge of it. Maybe some edge of it is there. But
Okay, so you have to know.
it's a huge place.
What?
It's a huge place.
The airport? Yeah, well, it has to be. Okay. אבל אם הגיע ליישוב אפילו ליישוב נוחרים, כיוון שאין דייתו לאחסר, נמשך אחר המדינה שבו לשם, וכיוון שהגיע ליישוב של בני אדם. There doesn't have to be Jews. יש מי שמקל גם בזה, אם דייתו לאחסר, דבויק שיהיה דווקא ליישוב של ישראל. Okay, this is this question.
The question would be more for like Kennedy Airport or LaGuardia.
Kennedy is in there, the Yeshua.
Huh?
Okay.
It's in the issue. It's not considered something to itself.
I think so. רצון לאחר שנכנס ליישוב שהוא ליועץ אחר כך למדבר דלא נפקע חיובוי. כל חוץ לתחום, רצון לומר בין בדייתו לאחסר ובין דייתו לאחסר, כל שלא הגיע לתחום היישוב, מקרי לא הגיע ליישוב עדיין. You have to be within the תחום. הכוסו הפועסק דבני עצו שבו לחוץ לארץ ודייתו לאחסר, כל עליהם יונטר שני בערב שבס, אין צריכים לערב עירובי תבשילין, מפני שהוא דובר שבצינו. They don't have to make Erev Tavshilin because you're not doing anything. You're not doing. No, it's that what you're doing, you would be allowed to do if you made an Erev Tavshilin. So you don't have to make an Erev Tavshilin because a Ben Chutzlars could also do it if they made an Erev Tavshilin. So that's
you
cool.
have to act like everybody else.
Right. I'll just say that you say what you say. You have to act like everybody else. Probably the most amazing psak that I know in Yontif Sheni Kelchoso is the following psak. Chacham Ben Tzina B'Shol holds, though there's a bit of a machlokes on this issue, that Eilat is Chutz La'aretz. B'Teres Vadai. And he says, even though that's the case, if somebody goes to Eilat for Yontif, they do not have to keep Yontif Sheni Kelchoso. Why? They don't have to hear Yontif Sheni at all. Why? So he says because the reason why you have to keep Yontif Sheni is because you shouldn't be Mishanim from the Minhag HaMokom. The people who live in Eilat, they all keep one day only. So even though they're doing the wrong thing, but the whole reason why you have to keep it is so that you shouldn't fight with the people. Right, there's no problem because everybody's doing it wrong. You're the only one who's doing it right, but he says, therefore, you're allowed to do it. That's like probably the most amazing psak, right?
Would you be the opposite? Meaning if you started keeping it in shame, would you be a less exposure?
I think if you live there, they have to tell you have to keep. They're all doing wrong. There's no less guided when they're doing the wrong thing. No. If a person goes to a place where they're only Mechalei Shabbos, no one's going to say that you're allowed to be Mechalei Shabbos, right? Okay. They don't keep any days. Right? That's like a place where they're Mechalei Shabbos.
So at the time in Ramat Beit Shemesh, there was more people were keeping 2 days than 1 day here.
Okay.
Everyone else had to do it 2 days. Okay. At the beginning of it, there was every show had a minion.
Yeah, but I still don't believe there was still more people. Okay. Now, what do you do when you find yourself in mitam zet tzrichim hem lespal til shvona esei belachish b'yontif sheni? You have to daven weekday shvona esei quietly. V'chein aniach tefillin betzina. Kivon shadaitum nachso v'noisna leihem chumrei makom sheyatzu misham, that they have to do kamosha kazvasirin tov samach ches. I will tzrichem lilvosh malbusha yontif m'nibnei shu davar shofar hesya. V'chein, I will just share with you. If I'm not mistaken, Moshe Feinstein says a person, a Ben Eretz Yisrael, that finds himself in Chutz La'aretz, On Yontif Sheni of Lela Seder, he has to make a Seder. Because that's like all doing before Hesya.
Even if it's just him and his family.
Yeah. I don't remember if he says if you're only with other people, but he's very worried about this.
What's the thing with the hotels? Like if you have a hotel in Chutzpah that's all Israelis go to, or vice versa.
I will tell you, I was by Moshe Halberstam once, and somebody said he came in, he's going to some place in Austria where they're renting out a hotel in the middle of the forest. Not in a Makom Yishuv. And he asked me, he asked Moshe, he said, I only want to take a shower. That's all I want. I don't, that's all I want is to take a shower. He wouldn't let him.
Everyone there was Israeli.
There was no one
No,
there.
there were people, but it wasn't the Yishuv. It wasn't the Yishuv. It's just a hotel in the middle of...
But there are hotels in it that market to Israelis that are just isolated also.
Yeah. I know somebody who goes every year to some place off the coast of Italy. And they have two minyanim. They have for the Israelis and they have for the Bnei Chutz La'aretz. I don't know, I guess that the... What? I have no idea.
I mean, it's okay to have an Israeli minyan in a place like that?
I think so. It's you're nowhere.
They don't have to keep it 2 days?
It's not a Makom Yishuv. Well, let's say
half the places.
let's say we rented the Queen Mary, and we went on our ship, and you had what would be?
And you had half keeping 2 days and half keeping 1 day.
Yeah.
And it's out of Israeli.
It's
water.
international water. Okay.
What would be?
I think that they can do it there with where they come from.
Kol echad k'fi ma.
K'fi min hagoi. Not whatever they want. Okay. Mikol makom tfilas Yom Tov tzarich l'spal b'beis v'sira. Ochel im daita shelo lachzor l'mekom l'olam yisnag keben Eretz Yisrael. K'mo shekasav le'il. Okay. Because the Misha Oiker Dirasa, this is a fascinating halacha. I'm not sure I understand this exactly. Misha Oiker Dirasa im Ishtay Ubanav Mimakam Namakam Lisa Velite im Velarviach Afal Pisha Vashat Sikirasa Yedai to Lachsa Makaimai Kimisha Ein Dai to Lachsa Dami. If you're on the way, and because if you're going to find a good job, you'll stay there. And then stomach the milk, keep it dakrino. The anshe base say call shemoitzu parasa berevach. Voice of welcome shalom shalom enuzaz mishal. If you'll find a good parasa, you'll stay there. So that's good enough. Because oid the misha ein daito lachzer. Afa pi sheishto nishara b'mekoymoi harishon afil hochi ein daito lachzer mikri. This I'm not sure what this halacha means. Does it mean because we assume that the wife is going to follow shortly, or that he's going to get divorced? What did we just say? What did we just say? I think that means the first. Okay, we'll stop over here.
There are the cases of people who live here for many years and they still keeping 2 days, but they still think they're going to go back.
I did it for 12 years.
What was the, you thought you were going to go back?
For I think 11 years, I was certain that I was going back. And on the 12th year, I went and asked Rabbi Elyashiv. And he said, continue.
Yeah?
Yeah. I did that for another year until I